Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Thursday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. A few things to be speaking about on the higher term timeframes today as far as what is going to essentially govern my biases for the next week and a half to come, of which is either going to essentially imply price action up above about 26,000 bucks or back down to the weekly range lows to 20,000 bucks. And that very likely does get clarified sometime between right now or basically tonight on upon the daily closure. So with that in mind, let's go into it right on over here. I wanted to start off and follow up on the 2-day time frame signal. So we've been following this signal for the past month or so now. We've seen it many times in the last few years, and we've spoken about it many times on this channel for the past few months here. We've seen several iterations. And what essentially is a signal? It is a volatility versus momentum signal, starting off with BBWP indicator over here, measuring volatility of dispersion of returns. The indication is that anytime we do see it get to extreme lows, which I define as below 10 percentile, the expansion phase from these extreme lows has led to an average move of about 37.5% done over the course of about 17.5 days. This has been back tested for the past few years here with pretty consistent results, I would say. We have seen on the lower end, and I would say this is an outlier, of about 18.5%, and on the upper end close to 60%, which with most of the results kind of being in the mid 30s to low 40s or so. Anyways, in this case, the stochastic momentum oscillator has gone the correct direction for just under 82% of the time. That number will obviously be going up because this one has worked out yet again from the signal given in early July. So you might be asking, Krown, why are you bringing this up right now? Well, the thing is that the 2-day time frame will be closing tonight. And if we do see the momentum pivot failed, meaning that it closes below 22,000 bucks, then that would indicate that the signal has been resolved. We have seen the totality of it for now, and very likely do play back down to the range lows on the weekly because all lower term timeframes would be destroyed at that point below 22,000 bucks. But the real question is it reasonable to say that we've already seen this move already play out? Well, as long as Bitcoin, again, is above $22,000 and this will remain to the upside, no, or technically speaking, no. But let's look at the data right here. And if we go from the low to the high of this move since the signal was given, it's been about 31 to 32%, done to the upside thus far, which is that reasonable to kind of expect with an average move about 37.5%? I would say that that's in alignment with that. And then also of interest right here is the average days, right? The average day is about 17.5%. Well, thus far, we've seen about 22 days transpire from that signal given. So it's definitely getting on to the upper end of that right now. And if this momentum pivot is still maintained above $22,000, I would say that the signal is still active. But here's the thing. If we do apply the average move from the low, where would that imply price action? Well, 37.5% would put Bitcoin at about 26,000 bucks, a little bit below there to be fair. So, while that isn't like a humongous difference in percent, it is, a decent amount of difference in price action itself. So I do think that it is relevant to be aware of that. And again, as long as Bitcoin is closing above this region right here, well, I would keep an open mind towards one more leg to the upside. To add on to that, let's go to this chart over here. This is a chart that I spoke about many times last week and the week before that and the week before that and the week before that. And this is the weekly stochastic historical bounce regions. So what essentially we're looking at right here? Well, we're looking at a very convoluted chart, as you can see. Let me get rid of some of the more annoying stuff going on right here. And basically, what am I calling out? Well, what I'm calling out is all of the times that the weekly stochastic momentum oscillator has gotten down to this green horizontal bar that my cursor is currently on right now, extreme lows, basically around like 10 to 11 or so, and then turned up from those extreme lows. Anyways, this has happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in Bitcoin's history. And for the average bounce off of those 6 times, we've seen about a 58.25% move from the actual low given. And the average time taken has been about basically 29 to 30 days. So this signal fired off basically, around early July, slash late June. And as of right now, we are in, I think, we're around like day number 21 for this. So it would be in alignment to kind of still look at next week, that being August 8th through August, I think, 13th is the actual trading week. Yeah, there we go. Or August 12th would be the real trading week right there, as still relevant for this signal. And thus far, we have seen a pretty good bounce with this. It's been about 41% off the lows thus far. Is that in alignment with the average bounce of 58.25%? I mean, obviously, definitely on the lower end right there. We certainly have seen several bounces in the more recent history, more in alignment with that number. The last few ones were 38.5 versus 45 versus basically 46 right there. The prior ones were much more, actually, to be fair. So, this data has been skewed certainly by the earlier history of which those results have been less impressive, to be fair. But in this case right here, if we were to apply the average bounce move, which I think that this is like getting really fucking greedy here, to be honest with you, that would put Bitcoin as high as like 27,000 bucks basically. So, could we have a range for what to expect if Bitcoin does get a continuation move here? And we'll go over continuation conditions in a second. Well, I suppose, yes, $26,000 to $27,000 still kind of, reasonable. Again, if this next thing happens, and the average time for the bounce, well, 29 or basically 30 days. Again, that brings us to the second week of this month on average. So now let's go into the actual chart. I mean, obviously these are the charts, but my gold regular price action charts right here. And ultimately it's the same thing as yesterday, but with these higher term time frame looks in the picture, we can come at this from a statistical narrative and say that, hey, if Bitcoin does complete back above even the medium term time frame pivot here, which is the same as yesterday, 23,500-ish region, I would confirm this as your next higher low on price action, meaning that basically just below 23,000 bucks can be the next higher low, and then Bitcoin very likely works its way up towards somewhere between about 26 to 27,000 bucks. There's gonna be stops along the way, obviously, but namely the last high at about 24.5 or so, or somewhere in those low 24s, and then very likely again in the mid 25s. But ultimately, I would be looking for that move to transpire if that were to occur. That's kind of my triggering effect for that. Until then, however, it's kind of boring here on the short-term time frame. Same shit as yesterday. Although, there has been opportunity in that. What would I define as a range resolution to the downside, implying price action somewhere down, probably a little bit below 22,000 bucks overall, would be a 4-hour closure below specifically 22,600. If I see something like that, then yes, I am looking for this for price action to work its way back down. Maybe a little bit below 22.6 to be fair, and very likely test somewhere down around $22,000. That obviously would put the 2-day signal in conclusion, and while there probably would be a bounce there, I would be looking for things to work their way back down to the weekly range lows, with very likely another stop along the way around the 26th of July low right here. Anyways, of interest on the lower term timeframes, it's actually rather similar to yesterday in this case. We do see that 4-hour BBWP is incredibly low. It's extremely low right here. So we are looking at a move outside of this range. When I say the range, I mean below either 22.6 or above 23.5, on a closing basis, that is. Again, I want to be very deliberately clear with that. We're very likely looking at, at a range break from one of those levels. And if we look at stochastic momentum on these lower term timeframes, let's see if we can get a bias on these, or on these for now. Well, hourly stochastic momentum will be downside angled as long as Bitcoin is closing below 23,100. So yes, it is downside angled right now, but it's like less than $100 away from the current pivot as of right now, which is nothing for Bitcoin. So it doesn't really give us too much right now, unfortunately. At least in my opinion, it does not give you much of an edge. The buy hourly is going to be showing downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's below 23,350. Again, that is even below the range pivots in this case. So, we could see momentum turn around and just kind of range a little bit more, I guess. Boy, the ever-loving shit out of everyone. Definitely possible. And then the 4-hour time frame is where things start to get a little bit more interesting here. We do see downside momentum if Bitcoin closes below 23,350. So both the 2-hour and the 4-hour pivoted at the same region. And then if we go to the 12-hour, the 12-hour is also nosediving as long as Bitcoin's below $24,000. And the daily is also down as long as Bitcoin's below 23,750. So ultimately, if I am going off of stochastic momentum, there are many more things pointed down than up right now. So downside pressure is to be expected today. We'll see if the actual range breaks or not. Although I should also denote that I believe, that we already went over the 2-day. Was it the 5-day? No, not the 5-day, but if you go back on over here, it should be known that if the 2-day time frame closes today, especially here or lower, especially below 23,000 bucks, there will be hidden bearish divergence on the 2-day RSI, which would very likely help govern my biases for downside price action. Also for the 2-day Jewel buy signal over here, that essentially gave a buy signal basically late June. It's saying take your profits as well. So it's not like it's not a sell signal just yet, but it is saying take your profits right here, which, you know, after a nice move like that from the signal given all the way over here to the current high, it's about 33%. I would say that's reasonable. You know, can't get too greedy in an overall downside market, but for right now, you know, do be aware of these things that are on the board, because if that does get confirmed, I would very likely be favoring the downside rather than the upside in this case. Barring any sort of a range resolution on the 4-hour time frame, again above 23.5, or if you want to be, you know, a little bit more conservative, 23.6, fine, to the upside, versus about 22.6 or 22.7 to the downside. Again, depending upon how conservative or aggressive you want to be. Other than that, I really don't have too much to be speaking about right here. It's been a nice and easy day. I suspect that we'll probably get a little more fun action probably around the end of today, or at least the end of the day for myself, when US markets open. Typically when the fun action does begin, and then leads us into Friday. So other than that, I want to remind you that I've been posting like a fucking madman on Instagram, of which you may or may not be interested in, both Bitcoin related content and also just random trading related content as well, and also just random stuff too. Also got ByBit shills. I'm actually gonna be releasing an options playlist for ByBit, as they are gonna be offering 50% commission, or what is it, 50% reduction in fees. Yeah, 50% fee reduction if you use the link in the description below. So I'll upload a playlist on like options and what they mean and what they are, and a few strategies with that as well. Anyways, other than that, I want to be signing off now. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.